Thank you very much. Excuse us for this rush in this way of doing that, but we have some participants that are in Asia, so there I think is 12 on the midnight, so that's why you have to go more quickly than we want. So this part of the session, I invite Diego, representative from the IFou Executive Committee, to come here with me, please, just to start the last part of the conference. So in this part, we invite the moderators of the parallel sessions just to make a little report of this 5 parallel sessions was very rich. So first of all, perhaps session topic number 1. Perhaps if you want to start, Diego, and Claire, perhaps topic number 1. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Who is beginning?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's the first question.
Okay, topic number 1 first.
Okay. Sorry.
Please, Claire, my lecture.
Very sorry. Yes. So there were in section 1.1. The question, the topic was study the complexity of cross-border and constantly changing territories. So it's not a resume because it's just impossible and it's not very necessary. It's just like a few points of synthesis. So the 5 papers on that section, they propose new ways to face complex problems raised by the ecological transition in situations where the functioning of existing political and administrative structure is inoperative to face spatial and social impacts of natural risks and disasters. Namely, 2 teams that work on floods, anticipation and regulation point out the necessity to rethink and reshape public policies in order to take into account the whole cycles of water flows in those territories and to set up operational structures and tools capable to articulate the use of land and the management of hydrological facilities and to coordinate them at the appropriate levels. In all cases, the recommended methodologies, which are potentially tested in educational workshops, combine 2 types of investigations. First, a transdisciplinary analysis on a regional scale, where data mapping plays an essential role, which aims at revealing the nature of the problems and formulating intervention hypotheses. And second, a fine knowledge of architecture and landscape typologies on a very local scale, and in particular of the network of public spaces, which allows the emergence of possibilities for the use or rearrangement of common resources, contributing to the implementation of an overall project. It must be emphasized that this fluid and open approach needs to be supported by decision-making mechanisms that allow for optimum fluidity and responsiveness between the organizations that program and plan public policies at the regional level and the inhabitants and local stakeholders who live in and animate the territory. The implementation of a decision-making system that integrates bottom-up procedures and intermediate levels of interface and negotiation thus appears to be the indispensable complement of the socio-ecological approach to complex territorial problems developed by these researchers. Okay, this is the first point. There's just the second point, I'm sorry. You asked for. Second point was renewing territorial practices through cross-scale and cross-cultural approaches. So the 5 papers in this section question the urban design methodologies that are best suited to respond to potentially antagonist objectives related to the consideration of major ecological and societal issues that arise in connection with the processes of metropolization that are reaching all continents. So this includes taking into account the phenomena of relegation of migrant population on territories that are vulnerable in terms of environmental equilibrium. The issue of design of public spaces that are accessible for all people in districts with strong heritage preservation constraints. So this is all antagonist objectives. The issue of shared use of open space in contexts that are under strong speculative pressure. The issue of implementation of livable environment in regard of the quality of air and climate in very dense urban district. So the question which is raised in these different cases studies is the way how to define public utility, the public utility of interventions, urban design intervention, considering these antagonist objectives. And the method better adapted to make some kind of consensus emerge to respect the general interest while taking into account all the different stakes of the ecological transition. So this is the question of at what scale the objectives can be stand up and also can be taken into account, because obviously there are conflicts and contradiction among them. So the proposals are very varied and in terms of methodology. And one point, interesting point, is about the transfer of models from one culture to another. For example, the model of macro block from Barcelona to Stuttgart, it raises some very interesting question. And also the question of the vertu, I would say in France, of the output, good output of crossbreeding from 2 different or more cultures to imagine and to propose innovative type of response and more adapted, like the Mexico example. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Claire. Thank you. And for following this topic, Diego can also...
Thank you, Carlos. I'm not going to be so beautifully accurate as you had been, sorry. I'm reading the reporting of Professor Liu Jian from the University of Tsinghua, that she was the one presenting the beautiful report. If I can open the computer, yes. Shortly, the topic, one new transdisciplinary question of the natural and cultural environment. Basically, the 4 presentations focus on the fragmentation of the ecological continuity due to the human settlements by the way of designing research at the territorial scale, very much described today by Paola. Second was a critical design research on the relationship of birds with building through graphic representation as descriptive, analytical, and illustrative tool, a very impressive methods presented and discussed. Third, the contextual design with nature-based solutions as a framework through an international collaboration design studio. And four, the quantitative research on the issue of soil, focusing on the land take, pollution, and infiltration. On the open discussion after the four presentations, some questions were putting forward, basically how other disciplines challenge our discipline of architecture with the following responses for the audience. Be out of the comfort zone and realize the necessity of compromising to understand the methods. Think about different scales. We're talking about spatial and temporal scales. Now, consider the interdisciplinarity issue that had been talked in the field of architecture for about 25 years, and only recently get our attention. Multi-scalarity is coming in another comment, and is acting as the different process at the different architectural school. Landscape, even in a large scales, go in details, and the recognition of an intercultural approach is also a global challenge to be considered. Collaboration with the international school, but acting locally was also one of the points that the audience defined. The final point on the first presentation was the acknowledge of the emerging leaderships and the role of the universities among a very critical social actors, and the need to open up at the academy to the real social change in a real platform of discussion. It's also one of the points that was put there. The second topic was a new vision of architecture and the city faced with the challenge of sustainability. There were 6 presentations, starting by a discourse on the hybrid modernism with cases of architecture from various countries to arc for working with the past in a creative way to combine tradition with modernity, but at the same time being able to understand the sociocultural values within the landscape that define them. The second one was a studio work to tackle with the change of education, such as the needs for new way of learnings, advancing in competences, skills, and etc., by the way of socio-spatial analysis and a narrative story of mapping that was considered a critical point to facilitate the relinking of the academy with the social change. The third point was an analysis of the practice of subcontemporary Chinese architect with the framework of Chinese traditional ecological philosophy, with a focus on traditional Chinese culture, on relation between man and nature by the ways of reusing building materials or using recycled new materials, also in the coming back of understanding our materiality as part of our local landscape perspective that is raising a very important challenge in these presentations. The third one was a series of workshops in a number of years in different cities of different countries that can create structures in the public space as a polyvalent everyday places by the wave of observation in design. So it was a very interesting methodological approach to be able to also understand that the possibilities of transformation can be set in these spaces and elements that define, that could redefine architecture, and coming back to the essence of those. Fourth point, there was a doctoral thesis research on the issue of inequity in resilient policies at community level through a comparative analysis of the 4 cases in 4 different countries. And there came a research that summarized some markers on the concept of low-tech city by analyzing over 100 books and articles, such as innovation, circular economy, optimization, quality, which imply predictability, social cohesion, technological discern as the process that can be reached. On the open discussion, there was some very interesting questions and diverse, but basically talking about a dialogue to construct the values from the perspective of history, society, culture, and etc. with some responses of the audience, starting by a right solution to a right scale as the essence to be able to categorize with respect to the local context of the place towards a specific task, highlighting proper scale and proper strategy. Another point was a strategy that be the same, but there is no generalizable concept within this strategic construction. Final point, there are commonalities in different cultures, but there are still many different elements in many different places. Thus, we need to learn with each other as the key issue. The two parallel sessions, in order to finalize, show a high quality of presentation, a rich diversity of subject, and an active involvement of the audience. They justify the significance of transdisciplinarity thinking, an approach for architects and planners in the face of the challenge of sustainability, and as well in the significance of intercultural communication on architecture and planning and urbanism and the same, and putting the city in the face of the challenge as a way to respond to global changes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Diego. So for topic number 2, I asked Osin to make the report. I don't know if our colleague from Korea so to us that is one of in him, so I think it's not possible to do that. So Osin, it's up to you.
Okay. So good evening to North Korea. No, South Korea. Sorry. Yeah. I'm allowed to say hello to North also, yeah. Okay, the topic I was reporting is elaborating and teaching new paradigms, promoting localness in light of the crisis of globalized models for action. So what I can say is that the various contributions raised the issue of maintaining the local character of human settlements in both urban and rural areas. And the urban areas were dealt with mainly in Western Europe, and rural areas were dealt in South Asian presentations. Concerning the urban areas, we had examples in France, in the Paris region, and these contributions highlighted the need to rebuild the city on itself, in particular by acting on the basis and at the level of built structures. That was not saying that was the only way, but that was what was chosen by the paper itself. And what came out of this paper was that this could be done by identifying materials from the waste of the local economic fabric and recycling them in the construction industry, whilst exploring new and original uses for these materials that at some point were considered as waste. In this approach, the various waste produced by the industrial and craft activities of the territory are apprehended as local deposits to be recycled in construction materials by the creation of, I'm not sure my translation in English is correct, of territorialized channels, the filières territorialisées. Also, by taking into account starting from the design stage, the life cycles and successive reuses of buildings, and in the long term, the deconstructions and recycling of these buildings in a logic of circularity and in a philosophy of cradle to cradle. In terms of pedagogy, what came out was the idea of strengthening cross-disciplinary approaches and also highlighting and developing active pedagogies based on learning by doing and learning with the students, not only teaching to the students, with a focus on fieldwork and manipulation of local materials while learning the design process. I said that these contributions were both on rural and urban areas. So for the rural areas, the focus was more particularly on China. And the contributions highlighted the concern to fight against the standardization of built structures and the destruction of local landscapes, which were contributing to the erasure of local particularities, or what was identified as localness in these papers. And among the main issues raised were those of using local materials in the field of construction and spatial planning, but also mobilizing existing knowledges and know-hows, as well as, and to do that, mainly working in the industry of urban design and of building of local craft industries. The different contributions, and this is the end of what I'm saying, propose to revisit and learn in the Southeastern Asian context, from the traditions of what was presented as a 1,000-year-old agricultural civilization, in order to move from a rural community to a notion of ecological community. And finally, the spatial arrangements and governance mechanism developed by local communities to fight resiliently against phenomena altering their environment were considered as a potential source of inspiration and as lessons to be learned in order to consolidate sustainable human settlements, engaging inhabitants in the preservation of the living environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much. From topic 3, is Jeroen Ben Amjid is the charge to do. Okay, Jeroen, you can connect you, and I think the hybrid system it works. Okay, go on. So sorry, you have a problem with the sound. So, not. So we have a problem with the sound, so the hybrid system's not going to work. But he sent you perhaps a text you can read for him, okay? Okay. Sorry for this problem of the hybrid method. Okay.
I've got the honor to speak on Jeroen's behalf. And so topic 3, new ideas about North-South relations for studying territories in transition. Session 1, resilience and experimental approaches to knowledge sharing and transfer. This session contained 4 different but interrelated presentations promoting new ways of thinking about water-sensitive development, habitat development, and datafied societies. Gert van Meulen presented water-sensitive urban design for vulnerable coastal areas in India, adopting traditional local practices instead of northern-style modernity. Lisa Diedrich showcased a series of networked research by design studios, which promoted co-production of knowledge with local various stakeholders and municipalities in the Global South. Rafael de Balencio Jouet highlighted ASF International's Resilient Habitat Program's approach, which is to engage with communities, help identify complex problems, and devise strategies towards sustainable development. Provides Ng, Alberto Fernandez, and Kalema Naiwe presented historical, etymological, and technological insights around the notion of the digital commons, arguing for awareness and collective initiatives to promote inclusivity in future data-fied societies. Responding to the conference's theme's notion of North-South relations, all presentations promoted sensitive, adaptive, or participatory practices that respect localness and formalize informality, rather than expanding existing models of control into vulnerable contexts of or communities. A recurring theme was the notion of decolonization, reversing the mindset of expansionism, solutionism, and frontierism in favor of processes of self-organization. Now, on session 2, comparative approaches to large wetlands, the comments as follows. This session contained 3 presentations that explored water management and development practices in delta areas in India, Brazil, and Vietnam. Raquel Silva explored how Dutch water-based urban planning knowledge is exported around the world, highlighting the challenges that emerge around implementations in different social and political contexts, such as in India. Lucas de Goya presented a speculative strategy that respects and restores local indigenous communities and their relation to the river landscape in the Brazilian Amazon. Sylvie Tram-Nguyen analyzed the historic similarities between Dutch and Vietnamese water-based landscape urbanism, tracing a potential sensitive, adaptive, and stakeholder-driven development plan in the Mekong River Delta. The shared debate across these 3 presentations focused on North-South relations, similar to session 1, and sensitive approaches to knowledge transfer between developed countries and their universities and communities in the global South. It was concluded that a further paradigm shift in planning approaches is needed to more structurally adopt landscape dynamics and flexible scenario planning based on localized ecological needs. I think that's what Jeroen was to say.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jeroen. You are in Hong Kong. No, it's, I mean, it's midnight, I think, there. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, to topic number 4, I ask Hendrik to perhaps to report it, please. Yeah.
So, I report for topic 4. I didn't join those sessions, but we got the reports from Astrid and Lisa, I think. So basically, topic 4 was new approaches to technical dimensions for the benefit of localities. There were 5 presentations which highlighted new approaches related to different dimensions of mobility, networks, and biodiversity. There was a first paper from Lausanne, probably APFL context, contributed to an extended understanding of active mobility, taking a social ecological approach into consideration. The second paper from Hong Kong explored the reinvented role of skyway networks in different case study contexts. Finally, one presentation from Beijing expanded the spatial and land use understanding of carbon emission inventory, and one presentation from Rome pointed to the role of the microscale and how the unsealing of space can be part of a broader activism. More in general, in the discussion, it became clear, according to Astrid, that all papers share a critical look on existing technologies and infrastructures that often have their roots in modernistic and rational urban planning approaches, such as skyways. Actually, we found some here in Bordeaux recently, right? And then TOD development, soil sealing. Secondly, the papers propose a stronger contextualization and adaptation. At the same time, I think that links also a little bit to the presentation, the first presentation by Tatiana that we had, that there's pressing need to address larger transformations like biodiversity loss, which also I think you were referring to in a way, and changing climate. So basically the different scales, right? Finally, the discussions also brought forward that reference cases and comparisons can be helpful to indicate the diversity and differences of contexts in which these technologies and infrastructures are situated. But on methodological level, the comparative urbanism approach needs to be carefully integrated into the research to not simplistically transfer and borrow solutions from place to place. Now, we still have a second session in topic 4. I think the topics were quite different in this case, according to Lisa's report. So here we had 2 papers from the context of China on Beijing and Tianjin, and I think they followed very much one of the last IFou conferences in Nanjing that was looking at the mobile internet, which investigated popularity factors and mental health promotion behavior in parks through social media-based data mining methods. So we had a lot of things like this in the recent IFou conference, and these are continuation of those kind of research, seems like. The third paper from Hong Kong looked into Wang Hong urbanism, a concept describing the relationship between placemaking through the opening of trendy coffee shops and their social media presence, so also the relationship to social media as Kickstarter of physical urban change. And there were 2 more papers. The fourth paper, a case study from Monterrey in Mexico, found that people in this city were more aware of negative aspects of urban life after the COVID lockdowns. And the last paper analyzed sustainable building materials and eco-labels used in Seoul green policies. So that's all from topic 4. I might add a little bit to 5, because that was a session where I was actually as a moderator, and I don't know if Huang is around to present from this. Yeah, okay. Okay. So because I don't know if he sent to my email, because my internet doesn't work here. So so I don't know what our reporter was writing about this, but I have my own also reflections on the one session of topic 5. It was very much related to international education, and in this kind of transition phase, we had there two papers on mapping. One from UF from Venice, and one from EPFL, also quite similar in their methodology, and one then from Paris. I don't know if colleagues still around, that looked at soundscapes. And a last, also very interesting paper that was a collaboration between Lyon and Nicaragua. And when I remember well, I think that the mapping papers, I think, are very much in the tradition of looking at various aspects, maybe in mapping, that are overlooked, and basically drawing in the ecological aspects, like animal life and so on, into maps and make them visible. And it's kind of interesting, because then we had a discussion about mapping and also its kind of qualities, but also its critique. I don't know if the colleague is still around, that raised an interesting question about mapping, of course, and the way it was used for political reasons and so on. It was quite interesting, that because the first 2 papers, maybe I would more say that they reflected on what was missing in mapping, and basically mapping aspects that haven't been included into maps and so on, and making them visible for all of us to act on, right? While, for example, the question of soundscapes was quite interesting, because that's a non-visual aspect, right? And basically can add on other layers. And I think there was an interest in this eco soundscapes, if that's the right word. Now, the last paper I think was very interesting from Sylvia, who was in Lyon, but also worked with somebody in Nicaragua, because that was very much related to a project that was going on there, and I thought was quite meaningful. That was related to this other scale, in not the locality only, but really actually a global connection and responsibility by connecting people from, let's say, the global north and global south, and basically a team, a peer learning of each time one person from Nicaragua and one from Lyon that would work together as peers as part of a 2-year project, and then basically learn about their different responsibilities and the different local issues. And very much, and that was an interesting point, through empathy, to develop empathy for other places, and then through that maybe better respond, and actually respond maybe to those issues like climate emergency. So I think very interesting in terms of those different localities, but also different scales and so on that were addressed here. Okay, that's all from that session.
Thank you very much, Hendrik. I remind for all the participants that we are open the platform in which they sent the papers in order they could see the comments and the evaluation of the reviewers, and that will allow you to improve if necessary in order to publish in the proceedings of the conference. So we are going to do that next week, since next week, okay? So thank you very much for these hybrid problems. It's not so hybrid system, not so simple to us, but anyway, it was very interesting. That follow as we could, and this part of the session is about the Best Papers Awards. It's a tradition of the IFou. So I invite donc Diego. We are just say from each topic the reviewers evaluate the papers and they choose from each topic the best. The topic number 1 and number 2, in which there were most papers, the jury decided two winners by topic, and to topic number 3, 4, and 5, this just one paper was selected. So I'm going just to do that carefully. Okay. For
We're going to invite, if the author is is here, please come in here.
Topic number 1, new interdisciplinary and intercultural approach. No, sorry, it's no, yes, sorry. New interdisciplinary and intercultural approach for facing global challenges and their local impacts. Excuse me. So the winner to this topic was
Alexander Bossard, Chiara Carabelli, and Oliver Ska. Alexander, please, if you can come here. It's very important for you to know that in the international forum tradition, your paper had been revised by 3 different reviewers for 3 different universities and in a total no naming. So you really deserve it. And I must say, I was in the session. I really like the paper. Congratulations, gentlemen. And well, we wish you the very best.
Sorry. In this topic, the same category, the winner is.
I love this. Julie Martin, Fredrik Dellinger. Julie, if we need to or we go there, don't worry. Julie, again, another paper that I happen to hear, and thank you so much. I'm going to use, so we can say that. Please, and well, thank you, and we wish you all the best. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm not used to this kind of ceremony. So for now is topic number 2, elaborating and teaching new paradigms promoting localness in light of the crisis of globalized models of action. So we have 2 winners in this topic. One is?
Loren Gutierrez, very probably not here, very probably still in Hong Kong or here. And? Aligned with Herha Burns and Sun Choi from Hong Kong PolyU. So, okay, if you are there, congratulations. If not, we are going to see each other very soon. You're going to receive it.
Okay, and in this topic, the other winner is?
Well, this is a long list, so please, if anyone is here. Yeah, the title is Faced with Metropolization, Rethinking the Teaching of Design Practices Through the Lens of Transitions. We're talking about Javier Guillot, Julien Ball, Aurélie Couture. No one here? Nayan, Messi Raflet, Rakes, Mathilde Teixeira-Cole, Delphine Willis. Congratulations to all of you, very probably somewhere in the net.
I think Xavier is okay, teaching from the Bordeaux School, not here, so we are going to give it to him. Okay, thank you very much. So now is topic number 3, where an only team was selected. So the topic was new ideas about North-South relations for studying territories of transition. So the winner was?
with the title of Hydropower in the Frontier of Urbanization, Mediating Cosmovision and the Climate Crisis in the Brazilian Amazon. We congratulate Lucas Di Goya for this paper. With a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yes, this is topic number 4, a new approach to technical dimensions for the benefit of localities. And
the title was, There Are More Instagrammers Than Coffee Beans. So it's very interesting. Retracing Wang Hong Urbanism in Hong Kong. Author E.C.G. Yang, Katarina Biliani, Mia Bormünster, and Kim Wei Michel Xu. Very probably, again, in Hong Kong. Hong Kong, thank you so much. Congratulations. And again, in 2 weeks, this is going to be received in personally there. I'm going to take care of.
Okay, so topic number 5, the last topic, it was international education policies and the ecological transition challenge, and the winner is?
Well, Circular City Studio, exploring circularity in an international master course settings. Marta De Marchi, Andrea Bortolotti, and Giulia Lisertini. Not here, but oh yes. Well, thank you so much. You are going to receive this title by post, very probably then.
Yes, I remember to, okay, these authors that we announced we are going to make a publication with the best papers of the conference. This was selected because there were the select for the jury, of course, and of course we are also select other papers, but it's important to them to know that this paper will be published in a publication of one collection of the Press Université de Bordeaux, which is called Architecture et Paysage, that was founded by our school, and that the director of the collection is with us is Claire Parham. So thank you very much. Well, I'm not so used to this kind of ceremony, so I invite also Diego, who is more used to me, to the next part of the conference, which is also a tradition of the IFou, is to, the thanks to the thanks to people that help us to prepare the organization of the conference. So Diego, it's up to you now.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, in reality, this is the role of our Vice President, Vivian Wang, that she kindly asked me to do this, and I do it with pleasure, of course. There's the complexity of a conference like this. It's always in the backstage, and it takes at least a year. What happened in this incredible conference that we have today, and this setting that we have, of course, is related to a serious and enormous work of many people from our technical staff, thank you so much, but also from our universities and many different institutions that support it. So we're going to start, and if you're here, please come. We have a little gift, we hope very beautiful one. We need to start by the non-profit organization that supporting the whole logistic of the organization, ADERR. So, dear Seren, if you are here, we would like to have you, to hug you, not? Well, thank you so much, dear Seren. You are part of the organization, and within, we also ask Cécile Moison and Laura Savarit that collaborate with her. We are going to give you later this gift. Very probably they are still working outside, but thank you very, 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 very much. Well, and now home. So to our host in SAP, the Bordeaux Scientific Orientation Committee, that had been incredibly supportive and still here. We would like to thank enormously Osinari One and Ken Fitzsimmons on this. Ken, thank you so much, and very much, for everything. And dear Sin. a little gift, but to continue the work. But we truly appreciate this, and it's well, it's more than a pleasure. And you see, as we always said, and what Vivian always said, we are a network, but above all, no, we are a kind of friend circle and a family at the end. So thank you very much. But we cannot continue this without not thanking, no, our emeritus professor, the Claire Perrin, of till the last moment working absolutely in detailing all. Dear Claire, a little gift from the Netherlands and for the IFou. Thank you so, so much. Well, we need to continue. It's not eternal, I promise. Well, by this, in the name of the university and above all, in the base of the interest of all these networks, we would like to thank all the students that have been here every day with us, you know, and the amount of work that you have done. But we cannot thank, unfortunately, everyone, but in the name of the whole enormous support of the student, we would like to invite Nader Al-Nader to be able to thank you for all our work. Thank you so, so much. Well, you realize that all of this is because of you and for you, really. Well, and we enter, of course, to the core, the person who invite the whole institution, this incredible city, and for me, a very good friend, Carlo Grotiliev. Thank you so, so much. It's some material to read. Well, and thank you all on this. No.
Okay, well, this is a very, friendly way. Yes, Vivian, I think we have some problem with the sound, and
can you hear my voice? Because I really didn't prepare that I'm going to talk, because I'm already in my pajama. Because it's rather late here now, it's almost 1:30. But I think, Carlos, we forget one important puzzle in the whole picture, is we have to make the announcement for the next year event. So I would like first to introduce Manfredo from Auckland. Can you hear us?
Yes, I'm here. Can you see me and hear me?
Manfredo, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you very much. And if it's late in Taipei, here it's even later because it's 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning. So it's quite early. Actually, not late. Anyways, thank you very much for giving me the possibility to present this project. It's actually a project that started late compared to the usual way in which we plan conferences for many reasons that are always unfortunately associated to what we've been through in the last couple of years. But anyway, we have something to propose, and it's a draft proposal for the conference, the 16th conference. So this proposal is particular because, in first place, it couldn't better imagine or presenting it after having heard the two keynote speakers of the day, Tatiana Schneider and Paola Viganò, because they're dealing with, they introduce very clearly the topic that we want to discuss, the question of disruption, the question of how we can somehow look at alternatives. So the conference, the project was started, we started developing it in Auckland, aiming to give continuity to the recent conferences, and particularly this one in Bordeaux, while at the same time responding to important issues that emerged during the protracting COVID-19 pandemic by creating a project committee for the elaboration of ideas and formulation of the main theme and sub-themes. This committee is based at the Urban Design Hub of the School of Architecture and Planning of the University of Auckland, which I coordinate, involving academics of different schools of the University of Auckland, and also in collaboration with our strategic partner in China, which is the Hunan University. We have given this conference a provisional title, which is a Translocal Urbanism and Emerging Territorialities. The question of translocalism is something that we've talking about today, and I think that particularly Tatiana made the point of this question of how local becomes quite problematic, and how we start looking at things that probably move into spaces in which locality is still important, and eventually the contribution that was given by in the second talk by Paola is absolutely crucial around this. But what is important here is that this idea of moving beyond the scale has to do with moving up scales and rethinking even the question of generalized urbanization or question of planetary urbanism has been discussed in probably the last 30 years. We have also a subtitle, which is again aligned with the discussion we had today, which is outlining spaces of hope in the increasing mediatized, transduced, and metastable territoriality of the city. So as the general objective of the conference, we propose a creation of a space of relational reflexivity, so a space of reflection, and that's why we want to give continuity, that addresses two large new urban questions. These questions, which have been at the heart of the recent symposium of IFou, concern aspects of resilience and sustainability, which were explored particularly in Barcelona, Jakarta, and Delft, and digital and ecological transition, the one in Nanjing, and particularly on the digital, and here in Bordeaux on the ecological, namely. We see this reflection as necessary since the disruptive forces and rapidly changing realities surrounding us require constant revisions and redefinitions of the theoretical and empirical instruments available for design and planning practices at all scales. These revisions start with the researcher's positionality and involves the strategies, tactics, and methodologies for analysis and intervention in spatiality ranging from the soil to the city, intending now the city as a realm of practices dramatically abstracted from those that Bernardo Secchi referred to as invaluable patrimony stored and safeguarded by the soil itself, so the solemn, and the translation of swallow is a problem here. But anyway, this idea of what it is exactly that, as we've seen, even the excavation that Paola showed us in the very beginning of her presentation. So to effectively face the complexity of these questions, we have articulated the conversation of the conference along three thematic axes, dealing with aspects of technology and economy, aesthetics and politics, and community and society. The first one, technology and economy axis, addresses the combined processes of mediatization and financialization. Again, Tatiana gave us a clear indication there. Focusing on financialization, not necessarily mediatization, focusing on the agency of simultaneously accelerating spatial abstraction and differentiation. But Tatiana talked a lot about something never mentioned, essentially Lefebvre was talking about. In territorial realms, these dialogues will introduce and confront the emerging dynamics of deterritorialization, and here I'm referring to Deleuze, of course, the positive, the negative, or probably the ambivalent, so possibilities of moving towards possible double negations of the expanding multidimensionality of spatial production. So the second one, which is the axis of aesthetics politics, addresses the relations between the mutable spheres of aesthetics, which was what Rancière defines as the distribution of the sensible, and those of the right to the city, again, which from Lefebvre words we have understood as the right to produce the city and by this reproduce ourselves. Territoriality, or territorially, so talking of territoriality, these dialogues concern the growing tension between opposing hegemonic and counter-hegemonic cultures and practices in territorially mobilized social-spatial system. This mobilization is that particular thing that is embedded in the title, the idea of the translocalization. And finally, the third axis, the one community society. Well, here I'm referring to Gemeinsche Gesellschaft. I've seen that there's a couple of Germans there on the floor. addresses the intrinsic contradiction of abstractive and extractive. And here, extractive is extractive like Saskia assassin, that of course has to do with real extraction, as we've seen today. So the contradiction of abstractive and extractive modes of production, which, while implementing logic of domination through disciplinary and expulsive practices, concomitantly at the same time creates a condition of general spatial reappropriation and acculturation that fuel emancipatory subversion and disagreement. Territorially, these dialogues concern the formation of novel types of meta-communities. So the idea is that these communities is something beyond what could be defined in terms of geographically located and bounded neighborhoods. And these meta-communities are made of translocal actors and networks, and which are composed either by consenting and desynchronized accomplices. And here, again, referring to something that was mentioned today, I think was underlining or something present in Tatiana's talk, is the work of sociologists like Hartmut Rosa. And these desynchronized accomplices are somehow countering or countered by dissenting resonant counterpublics. This is actually the plan. This is actually what we're thinking so far. And we think that we picking up the ball from France, from Bordeaux, and of course, all these references to very important French people that developed ideas that are so essential to our discourse today, like Henri Lefebvre, like Michel Foucault, Gilles Deleuze, but also Jacques Rancière, are again an acknowledgement of the work that has been done by Carlos and the others there. Thank you very much.
I think can you hear or? Because actually we did not plan to give any talk in the very end, but I think I just want to say that I can't really see all the friends, audience who are sitting in the conference room. And you can also tell that I'm really not proper to appear in this way in the public. But I just want to share our, the feedback I received from friends during these 3 days. And then they're really enjoying, and this is my first time that I'm not able to be be able to attend the conference on the site. So when I hear all the positive feedback from our IFou families, that's always make us very jealous that we are sitting far away. But however, I feel in this way, we also can feel rather strong connection to all of you. And I can only say that IFou is growing through the last 15 years from 3 universities to nowadays 25 universities. And I'm very glad today, particularly to see Paula, because now is the final part. So Paula, it's really great to see you, and thank you giving such a sophisticated and beautiful talk, and also being so many years that to share, to be updated that your recent work. And this can be only done by collective efforts, and a lot of people still stay online. And I hope once I will be able to come to Bordeaux to meet all the colleagues of Carlos. And Carlos, we all knew that how heavy that you prepare this conference only in 6 months. And then that's really like a mission impossible, but you really nail it. And you deliver a very high quality conference to facilitate a very insightful and fruitful debate and talk. And I think now is a time for all of you to enjoy the weather. I hope you will gather together to drink the wine and however, and Carlos, sleep well. I think in the coming days, you will not want to see us, and you deserve that. And thank also Henko. Henko, you are there. I don't know if Joaquin's still there, and all my IFou families and all the audience. Thank you for your intellectual contributions. I hope I will see you soon in New Zealand next year. And then I wish you all enjoy this event and come back to IFou, and you are welcome. Thank you very much. Carlos, you should make the official announcement for the closing of this conference. Thank you.
Thank you. A cocktail in the room. Okay, just go to the room next for us to finish this soirée with the wine, Bordeaux wine together. Okay, thank you very much.